Some pawprints never fade, no matter how many years pass. They lead us back to the people we miss, the homes we lost, the hearts we once trusted. Jamie never meant to follow them, not into the woods, not into the past, not into the arms of a dog who already knew him. But sometimes, the things that save us were waiting long before we knew we needed saving. And sometimes, they have fur, a scarred ear, and the scent of a father's forgotten life. Part 1: The Boy Who Followed Pawprints. Clinch River, Tennessee, autumn, 1997. Jamie Caldwell had never been good at talking to people. Not to his fourth-grade classmates, who tossed paper footballs and spoke in bursts of noise and laughter he did not understand. Not to his teacher, Talbot, whose voice was gentle but whose eyes always seemed to ask if he was okay. And not to his mother, who packed his lunch each morning without looking him in the eye. It was on a Monday, one of those washed-out October days when the clouds looked like old dishwater, that Jamie first saw the pawprints. He had gone into the boys' bathroom just to be alone. The school spell had rung for recess, and Jamie did what he always did, hid. He leaned against the cracked tile, listening to the echo of kids running and laughing on the blacktop outside. The linoleum beneath him was cold, and the smell of bleach and old rust made his nose twitch. That is when he saw them. Not footprints. Pawprints. Small at first, but growing larger with each one, like the animal had stopped to sniff, to hesitate. Then, committed. They trailed from the sink toward the door and continued outside, across the hallway, onto the floor of the gym, and then out through the rusted side door that nobody used. Jamie followed them without thinking. His sneakers squeaked softly with each step. The prints were muddy, as if from soft riverbank earth, not the schoolyard gravel. No one else seemed to notice them. Kids darted past him, oblivious. A teacher barked something about staying off the grass, but Jamie was already pushing open the side door. Outside, the world quieted. Beyond the chain-link fence that hugged the school's perimeter lay the woods. Everyone at Clinch River Elementary knew not to go past the tree line. It was not fenced off, just unwritten law. But Jamie did not stop. He did not look back. Sponsored content. Discover how to unlock your dog's hidden intelligence with this proven and gentle training program. Say goodbye to unwanted behaviors and transform your dog into a well-behaved companion. Click here to start training now. The pawprints were clearer in the soft, damp leaves. Big, padded toes, spaced apart with purpose. Not wandering. Leading, he stepped over twigs, ducked under brush, and followed the trail until the sounds of the school fell away. Then he saw it. A gate, half hidden under ivy, opened into a small clearing. In the center sat a sagging log cabin, weathered gray, with a tin roof and smoke curling from its crooked chimney, and everywhere dogs, lying on old quilts, wandering between trees, noses twitching, tails thumping. Some were old, eyes cloudy with age. Some young, thin, wary, and one stood still, halfway between the trees and the house watching him. It was a mutt, no doubt, a shepherd mix maybe, but lean and tall, with one ear that flopped while the other stood alert. His coat was patchy black and rust, with a streak of white down his chest like someone had poured paint from his throat to his belly. A pale scar curved under his left eye like a crescent moon. The dog stepped forward, Jamie's heart kicked against his ribs. But the dog did not growl or bark. It did not sniff or circle or beg. It just looked at him as if it knew him. Not just recognized him, but remembered him. "Don't be scared," came a voice from the porch. Jamie startled. A man stood there, stooped and wiry, with a white beard that frayed like an old rope. His eyes were sharp behind thick glasses, and he held a tin bowl in one hand and a cracked walking cane in the other. "Huh? Hollis, and that dog you are staring at, he do not take to just anyone." Jamie did not move. His throat felt tight. Hollis did not press. He just sat slowly in a creaking rocking chair and pointed to the log where the dog now sat, tail thumping just once. "You can sit, if you want," he won't bite. "Not unless you lee." Jamie did not know what that meant, but his legs moved anyway, and he sank onto the log, hands gripping the rough bark. The dog padded forward, sniffed the air, and sat beside him. "He likes you," Hollis said. "Probably smells it on you." "Smells what?" Jamie asked before he could stop himself. The old man did not answer. He just looked at the boy a long time. Then he said softly, "What is your name?" "Jamie Caldwell." At that, something flickered in Hollis's face just for a second. Then he nodded, leaned back, and whistled low. Another dog trotted out from behind the house, a fat old Labrador, with eyes like tea leaves and hips that did not quite work right. "I have had some of these dogs since the war," he said. "Others just showed up. Like him." He nodded to the shepherd mix. "What is his name?" Jamie asked, finally brave enough to look him in the eye. "He answers to Buckshot, but only if he wants to." "Does he bite?" "Only if you lie," Hollis said again. Jamie frowned. Because lies are how people get lost. They sat in silence then. The boy, the dog, and the old man. Wind tugged gently through the trees. A crow called far off. Buckshot nudged Jamie his knee with his nose, then dropped a paw in his lap. A muddy, rough paw leaving a perfect print on his jeans. And Jamie remembered something. A story his grandmother once told him. Long ago, about how his father Thomas Caldwell had been pulled from a fire by a stranger, a war vet who saved dogs. A man with a limp, a man named Hollis. "My dad?" Jamie whispered, "You saved my dad?" Hollis did not answer right away. Buckshot's ears perked. The other dogs stirred slightly, as if they too had heard something not meant for words. "I reckon I did," Hollis finally said. "Back in '83. He was working construction when that house collapsed. Shouldn't have made it out, but the dogs found him. He smelled like smoke and something else." Jamie looked down. His hands were trembling. "My dad died last year," he said, voice thin. "In a car accident. I did not go to the funeral. My mom said I was too young." The old man just nodded, slow and quiet. Buckshot pressed closer, head against Jamie's shoulder now. A low, steady sound came from his chest, not a growl. A hum. A comfort. Jamie wanted to say something else. Anything. But the words were stuck. Then he heard it. The crunch of leaves. Fast. Sharp. Nog. Footsteps. Someone else was coming. Hollis' hand tightened on his cane. Buckshot stood, bristling, and Jamie, frozen, heart racing, watched as the trees opened again. Part 2: The Boy Who Followed Pawprints. The woman who stepped through the trees was tall and broad-shouldered, her jeans muddy to the knee and her long braids streaked with grey. She carried a sack slung over her shoulder, and had a look about her like someone who lived too many lives in too little time. Hollis relaxed. "Just slightly. Thought I heard you stomping," he said. "Had to go out past the creek." She replied, "Found Buster tangled in barbed wire again. Damn fool dog does not learn." Her eyes fell on Jamie. "And who is this?" Jamie froze. "Buckshot." Sensing it, stepped protectively between them. "This here's Jamie Caldwell," Hollis said calmly. He followed Buckshot's prints in from school. The woman tilted her head. "Caldwell." A pause, as in Thomas Caldwell. Jamie nodded. The woman did not say anything right away. She crouched and opened her sack, pulling out gauze, antiseptic, a can of beans, and an old peanut butter jar full of kibble. One of the dogs, a brown mutt with a torn ear, limped forward to greet her. "I'm Marnie," she finally said, not looking up. "I help Hollis with the dogs. We try to keep the old ones from dying alone." Jamie said nothing, but Buckshot had not moved. He was still between him and her, tail low, eyes watchful. "Buck's taken to him," Marnie said, almost to herself. "That is rare." Hollis leaned on his cane. "He has got the scent." "What scent?" Jamie asked again. Marnie looked at Hollis, then back at Jamie. "The scent of someone who belongs here," she said simply. The words struck something deep inside him. Nobody had ever told Jamie he belonged anywhere. Not at school, where his quietness made him invisible. Not at home, where his mother moved through the days like a ghost since his father died. Even at church, he sat at the far end of the pew, wishing someone would pull him close and whisper, "I see you." A strange woman and a dog with a scarred face were telling him he belonged in the woods. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. Instead, he just said, "Buckshot knew my dad." Hollis nodded. "He was just a pup when your father used to come around. After the fire, he would visit me, bring scraps for the dogs, talk about building a cabin out back." He paused, but then life took him elsewhere. Jamie swallowed. "He never told me that parents do not tell kids everything," Marnie said. "Sometimes they are trying to protect you. Sometimes they are just trying not to fall apart." Buckshot licked Jamie's wrist, rough and warm. Hollis gestured to a bench on the porch. "You want to sit a while?" Jamie nodded and followed, settling into the creaky wood seat. Buckshot stayed glued to his side. The clearing smelled of wood smoke and wet leaves. A dog barked in the distance. Somewhere close. An owl called too early. "You run off from school?" Marnie asked. Jamie looked down. "Kind of. I did not mean to. I saw the pawprints." "Well," Hollis said gently, "sometimes it is not about where the trail starts. It is where it wants to take you." That puzzled Jamie, but he did not ask what it meant. Instead, he said, "Can I come back?" Marnie looked at Hollis. "She has got her own ghosts," Hollis said to Jamie. Don't he mind her hesitation? Jamie did not ask what that meant either. But Marnie surprised him. She stepped onto the porch and pulled a folded paper from her coat pocket worn at the edges. Like it had been read 100 times, she handed it to Jamie. It was a photograph. Faded, sepia-toned. In it, a younger Hollis stood beside a man Jamie recognized immediately, his father. Thomas Caldwell. His dad looked happy, younger than Jamie ever saw him, and in front of them sat a floppy-eared shepherd puppy. Tongue lolling, paws too big for its body. Buckshot? Jamie asked. Hollis nodded. That was the first day he came back to life. Jamie looked up. Your dad found Buck in a ditch, half dead. Hollis explained. Didn't he hesitate? Just wrapped him in his jacket and carried him here. Said the world already had too much dying. Jamie held the photo tight. Something hot gathered behind his eyes. I want to help, he said. With the dogs. With anything. Marnie studied him again. Not with softness, but with a hard, earned respect. We do not coddle here, she said. They bite. They bark. They break things. Sometimes they die in your arms. Jamie nodded. Okay. Then come back tomorrow. After school. Hollis stood slowly. But first, we would better get you home. Your mama's probably halfway to the sheriff by now. Jamie's stomach dropped. He had not thought about his mom, or the school, or what it meant to walk off into the woods without telling anyone. Buckshot stood, tail wagging slow. Hollis put a hand on Jamie's shoulder. You are not in trouble, he said. But if this place is going to mean anything to you, it can be a secret. Jamie nodded. Together, they walked through the woods, leaves crunching underfoot, Buckshot leading the way like he would always known the trail. When they reached the schoolless edge, they saw flashing lights, a sheriff's cruiser, a teacher crying. Jamie's mother, her coat half-buttoned, hair wild, standing in the grass shouting his name. Jamie froze. Marnie stepped forward. You go, she said. We will be here. Jamie looked at Buckshot, who sat watching him with solemn eyes. Then he ran straight into his mother's arms. She dropped to her knees, sobbing. I thought you were. She could not finish. Jamie whispered. I followed the pawprints. She pulled back, eyes full of confusion and fear, but he smiled through his tears. And I think they are going to lead me home. Part 3. The Boy Who Followed Pawprints. The school made Jamie see the counselor the next day. Her name was Durant, and her office smelled like old erasers and cherry gum. She offered him a lollipop and a squishy stress ball shaped like a sheep. He took neither, she said, folding her hands on her desk. Won't tell me where you went yesterday. Jamie stared at the corner of the rug, where a thread had come loose and curled like a question mark. I followed some pawprints, he said. She raised her eyebrows. Into the woods. He nodded. Durant scribbled something on her clipboard. And what did you find there? Jamie hesitated. He did not want to give it away. Didn't he want to ruin the spell? But he also did not want to lie, not after what Hollis had said about lies getting people lost. A dog sanctuary, he said finally, and a man named me. Hollis. He takes care of them. She paused her writing. Did he offer you anything? Ask you to come back alone? Jamie said quickly. He just knew my dad from before. That made her look up. Your father? Jamie nodded. He saved him once. Durant stared at him a second too long. like she was trying to read a second layer to his words. Then she smiled, soft and distant. Well, that is quite a story. But it was not a story. It was real. He could still feel the weight of Buckshot's paw on his jeans. See the smoke curling from the crooked chimney. Hear the sound of the dogs breathing like wind through tall grass. When the bell rang and Jamie stepped out of the office, his mom was waiting in the car. She had not said much last night, just cried while holding him too tight, then made him hot cocoa without a word. She was quieter than usual now, her fingers tight on the steering wheel. "I want to go back," Jamie said as they pulled into the driveway. She did not answer. "I want to help Hollis. He has got a lot of dogs. Some of them are really old." Still nothing. "He knew Dad," Jamie added softly. She blinked hard and pulled into park. "I know he did." Jamie turned to look at her. "You knew?" She gave a tired smile. "Your dad used to take you there when you were little. Before the accident. You do not remember?" Jamie's heart thudded. He whispered, "You were maybe 3. She said, "He loved that place. Used to come home smelling like wood smoke and wet fur." He tried to picture it. Himself? Smaller, bundled in a jacket, Buckshot as a puppy, his dad carrying bags of kibble under one arm, his voice laughing, a scent Jamie could not quite retrieve. "Why did not you ever tell me?" She sighed, eyes drifting to the windshield. "Because after your dad died, I was trying so hard to hold everything together. I did not want anything to remind me how much I missed him. I guess I thought forgetting would be easier." Jamie did not answer. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. "I will take you tomorrow," she said at last. "After school. We will bring some food for them." Jamie did not smile, but something lit behind his eyes. The next afternoon, they drove out past the edge of town, down a gravel road lined with sweet gum trees and brittle fence posts. The forest had begun to blush red and gold, shedding leaves like secrets. Jamie clutched the bag of dry food in his lap, his fingers knotted in its handles. When they reached the gate, it was already open. Buckshot stood just inside, waiting. Jamie opened the door before the car stopped moving. He called softly, and the dog padded forward, tail low but wagging. This time, Buckshot nudged Jamie's ribs with his nose, then leaned his weight into him. A slow, firm lean. Jamie set the bag down and wrapped his arms around the dog's neck. "Missed you too," he whispered. Hollis stepped out onto the porch. "Well," he said, "looks like we got ourselves a volunteer." Jamie's mom climbed out behind him, her face pale and unreadable. But when she looked at Hollis, her eyes softened, just a little. "Henry," she said. Hollis smiled. "Hello, Sarah." Jamie glanced between them. "You know each other?" Everyone knew Hollis once. His mother said, "He delivered half the town's puppies and stitched up the rest. I retired from vet work years ago." Hollis said, but the dogs did not get the memo. Marnie came out with a bucket of water and gave a curt nod to Sarah before turning to Jamie. "You ready to work?" Jamie nodded, then grabbed that brush. She said, pointing to a tin bin beside the porch, "Start with the brindle shepherd. He has got burrs in places I do not care to reach." Jamie smiled and ran off, Buckshot on his heels. His mother stayed behind, standing beside Hollis in the waning light. "He does not remember this place," she said softly. "Will." Hollis said, "In time." You think it is good for him to come back? I think there are places that remember us even when we forget them. And dogs? They do not forget a scent. She nodded, eyes glistening. From the yard, Jamie's voice floated up. This one's missing a toe. That is gravy. Marnie called back. Don T asked how it happened. Laughter. Small. Real. Healing. Sarah wiped her eyes and smiled. I will bring blankets next time. Hollis just nodded. As the sun slipped behind the trees, the yard glowed golden. And for a moment, Jamie forgot about school bullies, about quiet lunches, about how it felt to not belong. Buckshot curled beside him, breathing slow and steady. And somewhere in the forest, another set of pawprints was being made, leading forward this time. Not back. Part 4. The Boy Who Followed Pawprints. That night, Jamie slept with the photograph under his pillow, the one of his dad, young and smiling beside Hollis and puppy Buckshot. In the half-dark, the image felt like proof, not just that the woods were real, or the dogs, or the old man who spoke like time had folded in on itself, but that his dad had once known joy, known laughter, known this place. In the morning, Jamie woke before his alarm and packed a small bag. He stuffed in a pair of socks, his sketch pad, and 3 graham crackers wrapped in a napkin. The grahams were for Buckshot. The sketch pad was for him. At school, everything felt different. Not easier. Not exactly. The kids still buzzed around like bees, too busy to see him. But Jamie did not feel hollow in his chair anymore. He had somewhere to go. Someone waiting. After the final bell, he walked straight out to where his mom had said she would park. She was waiting, thermos in hand, hair tied up in a red bandana like she used to wear before everything changed. Ready? She asked. Jamie nodded. They did not talk much on the drive. Just passed the thermos back and forth, hot chocolate this time, rich and too sweet. At the edge of the woods, Jamie spotted the rusted gate again. This time, he saw something else too scratched into the iron. Home is where the dog remembers you. He paused, ran his fingers over the words. They were not etched by machine. They looked clawed, maybe even scratched by hand. Did Dad write this? He asked. Hollis, already waiting on the porch, shook his head. That was me, long time ago, after a dog I loved found his way back from 3 counties over. Jamie smiled. What was his name? Cinder. Only dog I ever knew who hated the rain, but loved the river. He chuckled. Figure that out. Buckshot barked from the yard and loped toward Jamie. Tail high, ears bouncing. Jamie knelt and held out the graham crackers. Buckshot sat obediently and waited until Jamie gave the nod. Marnie appeared from behind the house, holding a battered rake. Got a job for you today, she said. Something important. Jamie stood. Okay. She pointed with her chin. That corner there by the woodshed. We buried Greta last night. Old retriever. Slept in the sun every day for 13 years. Wouldn't he go inside even when it rained sideways? Jamie's throat tightened. She died. Peacefully, head in my lap. Marnie said. Now we need something to mark her spot. Jamie looked down at his sketch pad. Fingers twitching. Could I draw her? He asked. Marnie blinked. draw. I mean, I could make a sign for the grave with her picture. Marnie did not say anything. Then she gave a quick, short nod. If you are gonna do it right. None of that cartoon junk. Jamie smiled. Okay. He sat on the porch steps, Buckshot beside him, and began to draw. At first, the lines were stiff. Retrievers were hard. Their softness did not always show up on paper. But slowly, Greta came alive in pencil. Shaggy ears, kind eyes, the faint slouch of age in her shoulders. Marnie hovered behind him, arms crossed. When he was done, he handed her the page without a word. She stared at it, a long silence. Then she cleared her throat. I will see if Hollis has varnish. She turned before he could see her wipe her cheek. As the days passed, Jamie fell into a rhythm. School, woods, dogs, drawing. He learned the names and stories behind each one. Gravy, the toe-missing shepherd. Elvis, a pug who snored louder than the chainsaw. Junie, a deaf border collie who spun in circles when excited. And then there was Buckshot. He never strayed far from Jamie's side. He walked him to the edge of the woods at dusk, and was waiting by the gate each afternoon. One evening, after helping Marnie patch up a torn fence post, Jamie asked Hollis, "Why did you let the place go invisible? I mean, nobody in town talks about it." Hollis sat back in his chair, watching the sky bruise into twilight. Sometimes places like this get forgotten, because folks do not want to remember the hard things. He said, "I was a vet. I saw things in war I can't unsee. Came back with a leg that won't sleep, and a heart that do not know what quiet feels like." Jamie waited. "I started bringing home dogs no one wanted. Broken ones. Like me. Folks called me crazy. Some still do. They should not." Jamie said. Hollis looked at him, then really looked. "That is the first time someone said without flinching." Jamie shrugged. "I know what it is like to feel invisible." Buckshot nudged his foot. "Not anymore," Hollis said softly. On Friday, something changed. Jamie was brushing Elvis near the garden beds when Buckshot began to grow. Deep, not playful. Jamie stood. "What is it?" Buckshot's eyes fixed on the woods. His fur bristled along his back, from behind the trees. Something moved. Quick. Shadowed. Jamie stepped toward the fence. "Hello." No answer. Then Hollis was beside him, cane in hand. Eyes sharp. "Get inside," he told Jamie. "But..." Jamie obeyed. Heart pounding. Inside the cabin, the air smelled of ash and lavender. Marnie locked the door behind them. "What was it?" Jamie asked. "Likely nothing," Hollis said. "Fox or coot." But Jamie saw the glance Hollis and Marnie shared. Tight, quiet. It was not nothing. And Buckshot stayed at the door for an hour. Unmoving, growling at the dark. Part 5, The Boy Who Followed Pawprints. That night, Jamie could not sleep. Even with the sketch pad still open on his nightstand, Elvis's half-finished eyes looking back at him, even with the window cracked reluctant in the sound of cicadas. He could not stop thinking about the look on Hollis' face. It had not been fear. Not exactly. It was older than that. Like he would seen something come back that should be stayed gone. The next day, Jamie asked. He waited until they were alone, stacking firewood behind the shed, sweat stinging his neck. Buckshot lay a few feet away, eyes alert. What was in the woods? Hollis did not answer right away. He picked up a log, turned it in his hand like it might offer an excuse. Sometimes folks think what you are doing out here ain't right, he said, taking in dogs that bite, or limp, or want tea come when called. Some think we are harboring sickness, or waste, or worse. Jamie blinked. But that is not true. Hollis said, but truth do not matter to people who've already made up their mind. Jamie felt the weight of those words. Was it a person? He asked. Maybe. Hollis sighed. There is a man used to live near the train tracks. Real bitter sort. Lost his own dog to old age a few years back. Swore it was something we did. Said he would burn the whole place down if we ever touched another stray. Jamie felt a chill ripple down his arms. Why have not you called the police? Hollis looked at him then. You do not call the law on ghosts. You just make sure the dogs sleep close and the doors stay locked. That evening, Jamie drew. Not a dog this time. He drew a shadow. Not quite a man, not quite a monster, just an outline standing at the edge of the woods with no eyes, watching the cabin where the dog slept. Buckshot stood in front of the porch in the picture, teeth bared, tail rigid. When Jamie finished, he folded the page in half and slipped it under the mattress. He did not want Hollis to see it. Not yet. The next few days passed without incident. Jamie learned to clean wounds, boil rice in a dented pot, and scrape out the water bowls before sunset. He learned which dogs could not be near each other, and which ones needed a blanket on cold nights to stop them from crying out. He also started sketching signs for each dog's shelter. Juni's had a swirl of music notes, Marnie said. She always danced in circles during fiddle songs. Elvis had a half moon, because he only settled once the sky darkened. And Buckshot's, that one he could not figure out. Jamie tried pawprints. A bone. A tree. But nothing felt right. He is not just a dog, he told Marnie as they cleaned out the feed shed one afternoon. He is more like a guardian. Marnie gave him a long look. Then maybe do not draw him like a pet. Jamie stopped what he was doing. Draw him how he feels. Later, he took his pencil and traced slow, careful lines. A curled tail at Jamie's feet. Watchful eyes. The faint curve of a scar below one eye and behind Buckshot. Rising faint in the background. The outline of Jamie's father, hand resting gently on the dog's back. He did not show that drawing to anyone either. He just slid it into the sketchbook and pressed it closed. Then, on a Wednesday, the gate was open, wide, and no one had opened it. Hollis stood frozen on the porch. Check the pens. He barked. Jamie ran, Buckshot beside him. The older dogs were still there. Junie, Elvis, Gravy, all untouched. But the food shed had been ransacked. Cans smashed, bags torn open, dog biscuits crushed under heavy boots. Someone was here, Marnie said, fury in her voice. Jamie's stomach twisted. Anything missing? He asked. Marnie scanned the mess. I do not think so. But Hollis was not so sure. He moved slower than usual, checking locks and windows. His mouth was set in a grim, unreadable line. Jamie followed him to the far side of the property, near the river slope, where a faded wooden sign hung on a split post. Private. No trespassing. It was shattered, snapped right down the middle. Jamie's voice was small. Are they going to come back? Hollis did not answer. Instead, he knelt slowly, painfully, and pushed something aside in the dirt. A cigarette butt, still warm, and beside it, a single deep boot print. You should stay home tomorrow, Hollis said without looking up. Jamie opened his mouth to protest, but Buckshot was already pressed against his leg. Trembling slightly, nose low to the earth, and in the wind, Jamie thought he heard something move beyond the trees. Part 6. The Boy Who Followed Pawprints. Jamie did not sleep that night, not really. He lay in bed, eyes fixed on the ceiling, waiting for a sound that never came. His sketchpad rested on his chest like a weight. Even Buckshot's, drawing the one with his father in the background, felt heavy now. By morning, his mother already knew. You are not going out there today, she said, setting down his oatmeal too hard. Not after what Hollis told me on the phone. Jamie sat up straighter, but nothing happened. Yet. She snapped. He flinched. She rarely raised her voice. She sighed and dropped into the chair across from him. Her hands were wrapped tightly around her mug, fingers white at the knuckles. When your dad used to go out there, she said, I thought it was a phase, a way to deal with the nightmares. But it never left him. Her eyes were distant. Even when he was home, a part of him stayed in those woods, with the dogs. With Hollis? Jamie spoke quietly. That is not a bad thing, she said, but it left less of him for us. That landed like a slap. Jamie looked down. You do not want me to become like him. She did not answer right away. Then she whispered, I do not want to lose you the way I lost him. Jamie pushed back his chair. You already did. He did not mean it to hurt, but it did. He saw it in her face. She did not stop him as he walked out the door. The path to the sanctuary felt different this time. The trees were not just tall, they were looming. The sky not just overcast, but crouched, like something was waiting to fall. Even the birds were quiet, the usual flutters and caws replaced by a silence thick as wool. At the gate, Buckshot was waiting, tail still, body tense. Jamie knelt to greet him. I was not supposed to come. Buckshot leaned his head into Jamie's chest, like he understood anyway. Inside, the yard was quiet. Too quiet. No Elvis snoring in the dirt. No Junie circling her blanket. Jamie rounded the corner and found Hollis by the woodshed, hammer in hand, sweat darkening the collar of his shirt. I told you to stay home, Hollis muttered, not looking up. Jamie kicked at a stone. I needed to come. Marnie emerged from the cabin, eyes tired, holding a half-burned sign. Jamie recognized it. It had once read Greeter in careful letters, with his drawing etched below. Now it was scorched at the edges, curling like paper left too close to flame. They came back last night, she said flatly. Jamie's voice cracked. The dogs. All safe, Hollis said. But someone lit a small fire, just enough to scare. Jamie's hands curled into fists. Why would someone hate dogs so much? Hollis paused, lips pressed together. It is not the dogs they hate, he said. It is what they remind people of: loyalty, memory, kindness. Some folks can bear to be reminded. Marnie added, and some just want to watch things suffer. Jamie's knees felt weak. He sat beside Buckshot, burying his fingers in the dog's coarse fur. We have to stop them. Marnie gave a humorless laugh. You planning to stand guard with a rake and a pencil? Jamie blinked. Actually, maybe. She raised an eyebrow. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a small sketch pad and 3 of his best markers. I have been thinking, he said. We could put up new signs, but not just names. Stories. Portraits. Real ones. So when someone looks at these dogs, they know who they are, what they survived. Hollis stepped closer, looking down at the boy that wanted to stop a man with a match. Jamie said, but it will show we are not scared. There was a long pause. Then Hollis nodded once. Start with Junie. By evening, Jamie had finished 3 new signs. Junie, deaf, rescued from a flooded barn, spins to feel vibrations. Elvis, abandoned on a highway, howls when left alone. Greta, loved sunbeams, buried under the oak, still warm in our hearts. Each sign bore their faces, hand-drawn and gentle, taped onto weatherproof boards Marnie helped him seal. When the signs were planted, Jamie stood back, dirt on his cheeks, proud. And for the first time, the sanctuary did not feel hidden. It felt seen. That night, Jamie and Hollis sat by the fire in the cabin, while Marnie took first watch outside. Jamie sipped weak tea and stared into the flames. Did you ever lose a dog? He asked quietly. Hollis' eyes did not move from the fire. Dozens. Which one hurt most? The old man was quiet for a long time. His name was Kip. Brown Moot. Found him near a bomb crater in '68. Would to eat unless I sang. Stayed with me through 4 surgeries. A divorce. And my mother's funeral. Jamie leaned in. What happened? He died on the porch. Right over there. Waiting for me to come back from town. Just laid down and did not wake up. Jamie swallowed hard. What did you do? Hollis poked the fire. I cried. Then I built another dockhouse. Jamie looked at him. Blinking tears. Because grief, Hollis said, is just love looking for somewhere to go. And in that moment, Jamie felt something inside him shift. Not heal. Not yet. But settle. Like a pawprint pressed into wet earth, soft and deep. Waiting for the next step. Part 7. The Boy Who Followed Pawprints. The fire was nearly out when Marnie burst through the door. No time, she said. They are back. Jamie scrambled to his feet. Buckshot was already at the door, snarling low and steady. How many? Hollis asked, reaching for the rusted shotgun he kept above the hearth. Maybe 3, Marnie said. Flashlights. I saw him pass the east fence. Jamie's heart hammered in his chest. Get the dogs in the cellar, Hollis ordered. Marnie turned to Jamie. Jamie did not argue. He sprinted to the pens, calling names as he went. Elvis stumbled out of the shadows. Blinking, Junie turned in circles, agitated by the tension in the air. Gravy barked once. A hoarse, raspy yelp, One by. Jamie coaxed them toward the back of the cabin, where the old storm door led to a root cellar dark, musty, lined with shelves of canned tomatoes and brittle rope. The dogs hesitated. "Please," Jamie whispered. "It is just for a little while." Buckshot herded them gently, nudging Junie down the steps with his shoulder. Jamie followed last, closing the door behind them. A heavy thump sounded as Hollis dropped the wooden bar across it. "Stay here," Hollis told him, but Jamie pressed close to the cellar's one dusty window. He could see slivers of movement through the slats, dancing light, shadows shifting beyond the fence line, and then a voice. "Old man, we know you are in there." Another voice, louder. "You got no right keeping those mutts. You think a leash makes you God." A pause. Then glass shattering. A window. Cabin. North side. Jamie flinched. Buckshot stood stiff beside him, a low growl rising in his throat. Hollis shouted from somewhere above, "We do not want trouble. You got it anyway." Then a crack. Not wood this time. Not glass. A gunshot. Jamie felt everything go still. Gravy whined in the dark. Junie pressed her head into Jamie's chest. Marnie's voice rang out sharp as a bell. "We have called the sheriff." A lie. But maybe it would work. Another shout. Fainter now. Angry. Fading. Then silence. Long. Aching silence. 20 minutes passed before the cellar door creaked open. "It is okay," Marnie said softly. "They are gone." Jamie stepped out into the cool night air. The porch light flickered weakly overhead. One window was shattered. Glass scattered across the rug like ice. "They shot at us?" he asked. Hollis nodded, rubbing his leg. Warning shot. Into the trees. "But why?" Marnie answered, voice low. "Because hurting things smaller than you makes some men feel big. Because kindness scares people who've forgotten how to feel it." Jamie looked out at the yard. Every dog was accounted for. Shaken. Quiet. But safe. "I want to do more," he said. Hollis studied him. More. Jamie's voice wavered, but he did not back down. More drawings. Signs. Stories. But not just for us. Marnie raised an eyebrow. "For who then?" "For town." Jamie said, "For the people who think this place is just a bunch of strays and crazy dog people. They need to know the truth, that this place matters." Marnie opened her mouth to respond, but Hollis beat her to it. "Then you better get to work." Over the next week, Jamie worked like a boy on fire. He turned every free minute into a drawing portraits. Names. Rescue stories. But also scenes. Gravy curled in the crook of Marnie's arm. Hollis' hand feeding Junie with a spoon. Buckshot standing proud in the sun with his head tilted skyward. Jamie brought the drawings to school. He asked Miss Talbot if he could put some on the bulletin board. She stared at them for a long moment, then nodded. "Hang them up." By lunch, kids were clustered around the display. "That one's missing a toe. Look at this one's eyes. They look real. Where is this place?" And then something unexpected happened. Tommy Frazier, Jamie's slowest classmate, who once made fun of his quiet voice, walked up and said, "My grandma has a rescue pug. Maybe I could bring some food." Jamie blinked. Really? Tommy shrugged. Yeah, he is old and farts a lot. I think he would like your buckshot guy. Jamie smiled small. But real. He probably would. On Saturday, the real miracle happened. 3 cars pulled up to the sanctuary gate. First was a mother with her 2 kids, both carrying bags of dry kibble. Then a teenage girl in a Letterman jacket, holding a leash and a tennis ball. Then a man in dusty work boots with a carton of old blankets in his truck bed. Word had spread. Not fast, not loud but steadily, whisper to whisper, sketch to sketch. By noon, there were 7 new volunteers. Jamie stood near the porch. Stunned, Hollis stepped beside him, shaking his head. I spent 30 years trying to keep this place quiet, he said. And here you are making it loud with pencils and paper. Jamie looked up at him. Is that okay? Hollis smiled. It is better than okay. It is belonging. Marnie called from across the yard, where a kid was brushing Elvis. He is smiling, she said. Elvis is actually smiling. Jamie laughed and Buckshot barked. A single, proud sound. The wind shifted. The leaves danced. And for the first time in a long time, the old cabin did not feel like a secret anymore. It felt like hope. Part 8. The Boy Who Followed Pawprints. The next week passed in a kind of golden blur. Every day after school, Jamie returned to the sanctuary to find someone new waiting by the gate. A quiet man with a limp carrying canned food. A pair of teenage sisters with crates of towels. A bus driver who brought bones left over from her husband's barbecue joint. And every day, Buckshot met Jamie at the gate like clockwork, tail thumping once, then settling into step beside him like he belonged there as much a fixture of the place as the crooked porch swing, or the smoke from Hollis' chimney. The wounds of the break-in had not healed, but something else had taken root in the scar. Community. Even Marnie began to soften, not smile. Exactly, Jamie was not sure she remembered how, but she stopped scowling quite as often. By Thursday, a local reporter showed up. Jamie spotted the camera first, poking out of the woman's canvas bag as she climbed out of her car, and introduced herself as Ems. Kenna from the Clinch River Gazette. I heard there is a boy drawing dogs out here, she said, squinting in the sunlight. I would like to see what is going on. Jamie flushed but nodded. It is not just me. Kenna smiled. That is even better. She spent the afternoon talking with Hollis, photographing the signs Jamie had made, and jotting down quotes from volunteers. At one point, she knelt beside Junie, who licked her notebook and knocked over her pen. This one's a star, she said. That is Junie, Jamie told her. She dances when the fiddle plays. Later, when the story was posted on the town bulletin board, Jamie read the headline out loud. A place for the broken and the boys who heal them. He did not know whether to be proud or embarrassed. His mother cried when she saw it. I just wish your dad could be seen this, she whispered. He would have been so proud. Jamie handed her the drawing he would kept folded in his sketch book, the one of Buckshot and his father standing in the background, side by side. He did see it, Jamie said. She held the paper for a long time, tracing the lines with trembling fingers. Then she hugged him so tightly he felt his ribs shift. That weekend, Jamie arrived early. The sky was the kind of blue that looked washed clean. Sunlight spilled through the thinning trees in ribbons, and the dogs barked like they were celebrating something. Hollis waved him over. I have got a job for you, he said. Jamie perked up. What kind? Hollis pointed to the old barn near the back of the property. We're clearing that out, thinking it might be time for a new kennel. Something with insulation, maybe even heat. Jamie grinned. Really? Really? Marnie said, appearing beside them. Place is finally getting too crowded. And loud. She means she is finally smiling more. Hollis whispered behind his hand. I heard that. Marnie muttered, but there was no venom in it. They spent the morning sweeping dust and raccoon droppings out of the barn, hauling scrap wood and rotted crates out into the sunlight. Jamie pulled on gloves that were too big and found a rhythm in the work. He uncovered old bones, a rusted collar, even a tiny, moth-eaten sweater with the name Otis stitched in red thread. Otis was a good one, Hollis said quietly. Used to sleep in my boot. Did he bark a lot? Jamie asked. Nope, snored louder than a freight train. Though. Jamie grinned and tucked the sweater into his backpack. For remembering, by mid-afternoon, the barn had been cleared. Shafts of sunlight broke through the slats in the walls, catching floating dust in golden trails. Did not look like much, but to Jamie, it looked like beginning. That night, Hollis surprised him. They sat on the porch, the dogs asleep or dozing nearby, when the old man reached down, opened a wooden box Jamie had never noticed before. Inside was a thick leather collar, stiff, worn, but still strong. This, Hollis said, was Kip's. Jamie sat forward. I have never given it to another dog. Hollis said, didn't he feel right? Kip was one of a kind. Jamie did not say anything, just waited. But, Hollis went on, a boy came along and started bringing the dead back to life with pencils and hope and 2 big gloves. And I think maybe it is time this collar had a second chapter. He held it out to Buckshot. Jamie took it with reverence, as if it were made of gold. Will he wear it? Hollis nodded. He already does. You are just making it official. Under the starlight, Jamie fastened the collar gently around Buckshot's neck. The dog stood still, eyes deep with understanding. There. Jamie whispered, now you belong? Buckshot nudged him once, then laid his head on Jamie's knee. And in that moment, something clicked like a final piece falling into place. This place. This dog. These people. They were not just part of Jamie's life anymore. They were his life. The sanctuary was no longer just a secret place in the woods. It was home. Part 9. The Boy Who Followed Pawprints. The cold came suddenly. One morning, Jamie stepped outside and saw his breath curl in the air like smoke. Frost covered the grass in silver lace, and the windshield of his mother's car was fogged white. Winter was coming fast. At the sanctuary, the mood shifted. The dogs moved slower. Buckshot's fur thickened, and even Marnie started wearing 2 flannel shirts instead of 1. Time to check the pipes. Hollis grumbled, jabbing at the frost-bitten hose near the garden beds. Last year we had to carry water in buckets for a week. Felt like the army all over again. Jamie kept drawing mostly inside now, near the fire, curled up with Buckshot at his feet. His sketch pad was full of winter scenes. Dogs curled in nests of blankets, steam rising from tin bowls, Marnie hammering insulation to the barn walls with her jaw clenched tight and her breath puffing like a train engine. He was halfway through drawing Junie watching snowflakes fall through a cracked window when Marnie came in holding a letter. It is for you, she said, handing it over without fanfare. Jamie blinked. For me. His name was written in careful block letters on the front. The return address was the Clinch River Elementary School. He opened it slowly. Inside was a folded piece of notebook paper and a paw print drawn in red crayon. Under it, in crooked handwriting, my mom said we can have a dog, but I told her about the ones you take care of. She said maybe we could visit. Tommy Frazier. Jamie smiled so wide it hurt. Marnie peered over his shoulder. Friend of yours? Jamie nodded. He used to tease me. Looks like he changed his mind. Jamie turned the letter over. Can we let him visit? That is not my decision. Jamie looked at Hollis, who was watching from the rocker by the stove. The old man gave a slow nod. Let the boy come. And so he did. The next Saturday, Tommy arrived with his mom and little sister. He did not say much at first, just shoved his hands deep into his hoodie pockets and kicked at the frost. But when Junie licked his palm and Buckshot flopped beside him like they would known each other for years, something shifted. Tommy laughed. Actually laughed. That night, as Jamie and his mother drove home, she said, "You know, you have changed." Jamie looked at her, startled, not in a bad way. She added, "It is just, you do not look down as much. You talk more at dinner. You smile." Jamie was quiet a moment. Then he said, "I think I was waiting." For what? He looked out the window, past the trees, toward where the woods waited in shadow. For a place that made sense. But even places that make sense can hold off the hard things forever. It happened 2 weeks before Christmas. Jamie arrived one afternoon to find the gate open again, but not from danger. From loss. Buckshot did not come to meet him. He found Marnie in the cabin, sitting beside the stove. Her face was pale, her hands twisted in her lap. "He is gone," she said softly. Jamie froze. "Who?" "Hollis." The word hit like ice water. Jamie felt the world tilt, then tilt again. He whispered. Peacefully. Marnie said, in the rocker, blanket up to his chin. Looked like he was just listening to the wind. Jamie staggered back, sinking to the floor. Buckshot was lying near the hearth, eyes open, head resting on Hollis's boot like he could not quite believe it either. He was just here yesterday. Jamie said, tears rising. He told me to bring more sketches for the barn. Marnie reached out, unsure. Then she placed her hand on Jamie's shoulder. He loved you. You know, she said. Told me last week you were the best thing to happen to this place since Kip. Jamie pressed his face into Buckshot's fur. Shoulders shaking. The cabin was so quiet. It hurt. The funeral was held in the yard under the sycamore tree. No church. No choir. Just wind and dogs and a sky that looked too wide for one small goodbye. Jamie stood beside Marnie, who traded her usual flannel for a black coat that did not quite fit. Dozens of people from town came, folks Jamie had never seen before. Farmers. Teachers. A man with an oxygen tank. A woman with pink hair and a box of dog treats tucked under one arm. And the dogs were there. Gravy limped. Junie curled at Marnie's feet. Even Elvis, old and arthritic, sat still as a stone beside Hollis' empty rocker. Jamie stepped forward, clutching something wrapped in cloth. When he unwrapped it, the wind caught the corner of paper Hollis' portrait, drawn in charcoal. Smiling faintly, eyes crinkled in the way they did when he talked about Kip, Jamie pinned it to the sycamore trunk with 2 thumbtacks. It flapped once, then settled. He gave me a place, Jamie said, voice shaking. He gave all of us one. No one spoke. No one needed to. They stood together, still, held by the H of the same shared truth. Some people do not leave behind monuments. They leave pawprints. And dogs who remember the sound of their voice. And boys who carry their legacy in their hands. Part 10. The Boy Who Followed Pawprints. Winter settled in heavy after Hollis passed. Snow came early that year, thick, quiet, the kind that softened everything it touched. Even grief. Jamie found himself at the sanctuary almost every day. Not because he had to, not because anyone asked, but because something in him felt tethered to the place, now, like one of the old beams in the barn weathered. Necessary. Marnie kept things going. She did not say much, but she was always there, hammering new shelves in the feed shed, checking paw pads for ice burns, sealing drafts in the cabin walls with old blankets and quiet resolve. She moved differently now, slower, more careful, as if she was protecting something fragile inside herself. One morning, as Jamie shoveled snow off the porch, he asked, "Is this still his place?" Marnie did not look up from where she was tying a tarp over the wood pile. "What do you mean?" "I mean, without him." She straightened, stretched her back. Hollis did not build this place with wood and nails. Jamie, he built it with trust. That does not die with the man. Jamie thought about that a long time. On the first sunny day in weeks, Jamie returned with a backpack full of nails, and a sign he would painted by hand. It was simple whitewashed wood, black letters, and a small painted pawprint in the corner. He waited until everyone had gathered. Marnie, the dogs, even a few of the regular volunteers who debraved the icy roads. Then he hammered it to the front gate, where the old private no trespassing sign had once hung, long splintered by wind and time. The Hollis Sanctuary, a place for the ones no one else wanted, run by the ones who know better. No one said a word. Buckshot sat at Jamie's side, tail resting against his boot. Marnie stepped forward, as red but dry, and nodded once. "Feels right." Spring came slow that year, in fits and starts, patches of green breaking through the frost. Robins returning like cautious travelers. One morning, Jamie arrived to find daffodils blooming wild behind the barn, where Hollis used to toss kitchen scraps for the raccoons. The barn was finished by then. Proper insulation, thick straw beds, windows that actually opened. Tommy and his mom had started coming every Saturday, and now there were 3 other kids who helped too. Jamie had taught them how to draw dog faces, how to notice the slight droop in a hound's eye, the way light caught the fur just above a Labrador S-brow. People brought in new rescues. One had 3 legs. One was deaf and blind. One had half a jaw and a bark like a broken toy horn. Each one got a name, a place to sleep, and a portrait drawn by Jamie's hand. And each one after some time learned what it meant to be safe. One afternoon, Jamie sat on the porch with Buckshot, sketching the last page of a new notebook. He was drawing a scene from memory. Hollis in his rocking chair. eyes squinting, a dog in his lap, the fire behind him glowing amber. Jamie added one final detail, a boy sitting cross-legged nearby, looking up like he was hearing something important for the first time. He smiled, closed the book, and held it to his chest. Then he said aloud, "I am not lost anymore." Buckshot thumped his tail. That night, Jamie stayed late, helping Marnie wash out the bowls and lock the sheds. The stars came out sharp and clear, the moon a thin white grin. Before he left, he walked out to the sycamore tree. The drawing of Hollis was still tacked to the trunk. Weathered now, the edges curling, but the smile was still there. Still soft. Still watching. Jamie reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something small. Kippy-soled leather collar. Buckshot still wore it proudly, but Jamie had replaced it with a new one last week, stitched by hand with his name and the words Hollis Sanctuary on the inside. Jamie draped Kip's collar over the lowest branch of the sycamore and tied it there with care. It would stay, he thought. It should stay, a memory made into something solid, a beginning from something that once was ending. On his way back toward the gate, Jamie paused. Buckshot stood in the yard, just beyond the porch, staring at the tree line. Still, silent. Jamie followed his gaze, and then he saw them. Fresh pawprints in the snow. Small ones. Light, leading from the woods toward the house. Jamie's breath caught. But this time, he did not follow. He did not need to, because now he understood. Some pawprints are meant to be followed. And some just show you where you belong. The end.